Hey everybody, Annette Green here. Today I wanted to share a really cool little project with you guys. I'm a big fan of oilcloth. I have a couple of purses that I adore, and these are Cath Kidston from London. And as you can see, they have that shiny, like wipe down resistant kind of coating. I guess that's considered oilcloth. I have several of them because I love them. I love them so much. I have some wallets as well, but they're just so durable and so pretty, and I love the little bit of a vintage look to some of these. So I got to thinking, when I got Eileen Hull's new notebook die, I got to thinking how it would be fun to make a little kind of faux oilcloth notebook that I could throw in my bag. And it has, you know, that nice shiny coating, but it's not oilcloth. So I'm going to teach you how I did it and a few tips and tricks along the way, what I found out when I was making these. Okay, so like I said, I started with Eileen Hull's die for Sizzix called Notebook. And basically that's it. Now, before I even talk any further, I'm just going to tell you guys a little tip on how I organize these little, this is the packaging that comes with the die. A lot of people keep them wrapped around their dies, and they keep that plastic outer acrylic container. I don't really do that. I keep one zip bag that has all of mine in one, and then I can just pull them out for reference when I want to see what they're supposed to look like. If you throw them away, you can always look online for sure, but this is a very quick, easy reference. Okay, so the basis to all my little notebooks is just some thin chipboard. This is the Cricut cardboard or chipboard, or whatever they call it. It is fairly thin, and you know, you just need that little bit of body underneath. You can't just use fabric on this. So I started with that, cut that out with Eileen's die, and then cut out a big piece of fabric, a little bit bigger than the cardboard. And this is the secret that comes into play here. It's just heat and bond. What do they call it? Just heat and bond vinyl. It's a 2-yard piece, iron-on vinyl, and it's fairly thin. It comes in a roll like so, and it has a little grid that makes it easy to cut, just like kind of like wrapping paper. So you can cut your piece a little bit bigger, smaller than your fabric, and then you just follow the directions and iron that on to your fabric. Okay, so I thought it would be kind of cute to use, this was an old, like vintage table runner, very small sized little table runner. And this, as you can see, has it on there. But I mean, it was just a fabric linen kind of thing before. And I did a big piece with the iron on, and I kept the scrap just in case I wanted that. But that's how I did this little guy. And I have my little string closure here, and I got some fun little pom-pom trim on the edge, and then on the inside I also lined the inside with that same. You don't have to do that step, but I did just to kind of try it out. It's very nice. And I did the signatures that I hand stitched and glued into the inner spine like so. And then I used some good old graphic 45, what's it called, Times Nouveau, because I thought it had that, you know, little kind of vintage flair, just like a lot of graphic 45 papers do. So all the little signatures have lined paper, but then they have these little covers inside. And they're all different colors, kind of cute, little polka dot. Okay, so, I mean, it's that simple, really. Before I glued the insides of the covers, I put my little cute string on there, and then I'm able to bring around that to the front and tie a bow. Simple. Okay, so that's the one I started with. Let me show the other two. Okay, this is the second one I did, and I actually had some paper that looked very much like Graphic 45's A Lady's Diary, which was the paper that I had planned to use on the inside, and I did. So I did the same process with the heat and bond and this pretty fabric. This time I used a coordinating fabric to line the inside, but it's also coated with that heat and bond. And then I started getting a little more elaborate with this one. I added a little bit of lace in here and some cut aparts from the paper, and then I used a lot of the papers for the signatures like before. And this one is also hand stitched in. I did more of a hollow back binding to this one because I found that it was a little bit thicker and I couldn't mash that flat. So there was a tutorial on YouTube for hollow back binding and I just kind of followed that. This one, the pages are made up of more of like a parchment, and I just got that at Office Depot. It's really pretty. And so it's just sort of adorned here and there with a few cut aparts or fussy cuts, little trims. So you get the idea, right? It's kind of cute. Okay, so I was having so much fun, I had to do one more. So let me show you that one. This one got a little more involved. Each time I tried one, I added just a little more stuff to it or a little technique I wanted to try out. So again, this is actually birdsong fabric from Graphic 45 long ago, probably before they ever started designing paper. Diane Schultz, the mama of Graphic 45, was a fabric designer. So I had some from a long time ago. And so I used that. I thought that made it extra special. So in here, again, I used a coordinating fabric and I also used the heat and bond on there. You can see a little bit of the shine. Okay, this one is hand stitched as well, but I did 3 signatures instead of 4 or 5 like the other 2. And I did some cut aparts and some birdsong paper, of course. And then I got a little fancy and I introduced some, this is just, I guess they call it like butcher paper. Like I buy it at Sam's Club. It comes on a sheet like that and you pull it out of a box, like a tissue box, but a larger box. So I used that for some of the pages and I discovered that when you stamped on it, and this is just, you know, archival ink, nothing special, it comes through to the other side like automatically. It's cool. Of course you have to stamp it before you put it in your book so it doesn't bleed through on what's behind here, but that was kind of a fun discovery. Some of the pages are just sort of like a parchment-y looking paper, and some of them are lined. I did this in like Photoshop, just added some sort of brown tan lines in there so it had a very vintage feel. More of the paper, and then I introduced this very thin craft, which I heard about from Nick the Booksmith on YouTube. This is drywall or painter's paper. Can't remember exactly what it's called, but it was from Home Depot, and it comes on a big old 25-foot roll, and it's crafty, but it's really nice and thin and crinkly. So it has sort of a vintage feel itself. And then I stamped I have the actual stamp set from Birdsong, all 3. I believe there was 3 in the beginning. So I stamped using those stamps. I did cut aparts with little tuck spots, some digital papers I had that had some digital imagery already on them. So very fun. You can see where it's fun to kind of mix and match the pages and the papers. So that gives you, that's another digital image. So you get the idea, right? Okay, so then I thought, okay, well, that was fun, and I'll probably make a million more. But then I was in Hobby Lobby, and I was looking at ribbon. Oh, wait, let's talk about the cover real quick here. This is Graphic 45's new gold architectural tape. It's like a gold washi. And then I trimmed it with some black, very thin black ribbon from May Arts there on the corners, just to give it a different feel. Some of the chipboard from Birdsong, and this little metal piece that I had, another little chipboard, and check out that little, I know the light is not great, that little, see that little fortune cookie charm? Isn't that cute? I think I got that at Hobby Lobby too. So anyway, that's fun. All right, so then I got to thinking how, as I was walking through Hobby Lobby looking at ribbon, I came across this stuff. All right, well, I'll show you how it came packaged. It's not on here anymore, but it came on a big spool like this, and they call it faux leather wide ribbon. So it's in the ribbon department of Hobby Lobby. But let me tell you, I don't know why they call it ribbon, because it's like vinyl, and it's almost like felt like here, and it's kind of thickish, right? It die cuts beautifully. You can cut it with scissors easily. It does not crack when you bend it. Now, I'll explain what did happen to me. So anyway, you still have to cut your little cardboard cover. And I'm just getting started on this, so I think I'm going to line it with paper this time. So this is from Graphic 45's Bloom, the B side of one of the papers. So I'm going to glue that on the inside, and I'm going to glue this on the outside. And you say, well, glue, what kind of glue? I use Elmer's spray adhesive. I did that for all the journals over there, all the little notebooks. $9 roughly at Hobby Lobby. Works great. I have to go out in the garage to do that and give it a light spray, and then you just press it onto your chipboard. So what I discovered when I went to die cut it is, like I said, it die cut beautifully. However, when I started to just kind of test it and wrap it around, do you see how it's cracking right there? So I did it again with the crease pad instead of the cutting pad, and it still did it. So then I put a piece of packing tape on the inside just to make sure it didn't rip any further, but I still see the little crack line even when I use the crease pad. So just know that. I think what I want to try to do this time is I've just cut a piece just a little bit bigger than the actual die cut. I'm going to go put some glue on this, and I'm going to glue it onto here. And the just a little bit bigger allows me to fold over, and it won't come up short here. And then I can just trim away the rest of it. So let me go do that real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, can you see the adhesive? It is super duper sticky. So I'm going to lay that face up here, and then I'm going to try to get this pretty well centered and just press that down really well. You can use a roller if you'd like. So a lot of times with little books and journals like this, you know, you want to wrap it around, but I feel like this stuff is just too thick for that. So I'm just gonna take some good old Teflon coated scissors, and I'm just gonna cut that out nice and clean. Okay, and there you go. It's that easy, right? And it looks great. Right out to the edges. It has that little white edge. That's not gonna bother me too much, but if it did and you didn't want to see that, you could always do a little inking. For sure. Okay, so for the inside, I decided, so this one isn't going to be a notebook. For me, I am envisioning that once I get all this in here, I'm actually going to build like a little slot for a notepad, because I want to use this over and over and over. And I know you can do stitching and elastic and put in signatures and all that, but I just want to do something a little bit different this time. So I think I'm just going to put a little band here so I can slide just a, you know, like little office size, desk size notepad in here, and I can change it out over and over. So the size of this little piece for the inner spine is 2 by 5, and I didn't run it through the die cut. I just cut it, and then I scored it in my scoreboard. I started from the center, which was 1 inch, and I went out 3/8. So that would be a score at 5/8 of an inch, and then another score at 1 3/8 of an inch over here. And I did it on the back side because you always want to score and then fold away from your score lines. So it'll be like this. And I'm going to glue that in there, and that just makes that inner spine just neater, prettier. And if you had any shortness in this measure, that kind of hides it. It doesn't show that craft showing underneath. So the size of these two, inside front and inside back cover, are, it's sort of a almost 3 5/8, so 3 9/16 by 5. 2 of those, and of course I use the small punch and my little corner rounder punch, and I use some blue ink to ink the edges, and I just happen to have this lovely matching Decades ink by Graphic 45 by Colorbox. It says prototype because I've had it for a long time, so I'm not sure what this blue is called, but you can look it up and tell me. All right, so I'm going to glue those two in there, and I will be right back. Okay, I got my papers in there, and I folded it just to kind of get them used to that fold. Looks good. What did I use? I used good old Elmer's Extreme Glue Stick, one of my favorites. Use it all the time. I could have used the spray that I showed you earlier. However, you really have to commit with that spray. You can't slide it into place. Whereas, of course, with the glue stick you can, and I'm not that exact when I go to glue something down. I want to be able to slide it, and I kind of had to get it right in the right place in these corners. So that's it so far, and I grabbed a scrap of the little faux leather stuff, and I think I'm going to make a little closure. Just hot glue this to the back, and then perhaps a little Velcro closure here. I don't know, we'll see. So let me keep working on it, and I'll come back and tell you what I did. Okay, so all I have, I thought I had some of those little desk size, you know, little ones, but all I have are these steno size pads. So I'm just gonna cut it because I'm too lazy to go to the store and just go get a couple of pads for this video. So I'm gonna cut it. I'll be right back. All right, so you do have this waist, but look at how cute this is, like just for lists. I'm not gonna throw that away. I'll put something pretty on there and just use that for quick lists and stuff, or something, I don't know. And then you got this one with the hard backing. You could keep that together. You could PVA this edge and make a little, you know, post-it pad of your own. So I'll save that. But here's my little pad. And you know, that was already there, so, and this was all bound together with that, you know, the thing that comes with the notepad. So I just cut a little strip of paper here and folded it over. This is also from Bloom, and it measures the same width, which I cut my little notepad to 3 1/4 by 4 5/8. So this piece of paper is like 3 1/4 by 2, and I just kind of wrapped it around to the back. All right, so I mean, I could round the corners and do all kinds of stuff, but I think I'm good, and I'm gonna put that right in there. And I am gonna make it so it's removable, like I said, but in the meanwhile, I used, rather than hot glue, because I didn't wanna wait for it to heat up, I used Fabri-Tac to glue my little strap on there. And now I have to go find some Velcro, but I think that's what I'm gonna do. You could do all kinds of things. You could do a cute little button here. If I had thought about it ahead of time, I could have stitched a button through here and put a little slit through here, because I don't think this stuff is gonna fray once you cut through it. You could put a little Tim Holtz hitch fastener there and make a little slit here and do that. I mean, there's a number of things you can do. But just for ease, I think I'm just gonna do a little Velcro square. And because this will go in and out of my purse, and I don't want it to get hung up on anything. So let me go work on this little part, and then I'll bring you back and show you what I did. All right, so I have this fairly strong craft cardstock, and I cut it 5 1/4 inches long by 1 1/2 inches wide. I'm going to tuck it up in there as far as it will go, which is about that far, and try to get it to hang out equally on both sides. It doesn't matter a whole lot, because what you're going to do next is you're going to fold it around to the back. Okay, and the reason why you want to do it this way is because you have to accommodate that little 1/16 of an inch for the thickness of this board back here. And that way you can slide your pad in and out easily. You don't want to make it too tight. Maybe I'll loosen that up just a little bit, not super tight wrapped around. I'll give it just a little bit of, little tiny bit of a gap, like that. Okay, so I mean, it's just kind of eyeballed. The main thing is, you know, you want to be able to slide it in and out of there easily. Now, I don't want to take this off of here and just glue this in here. You have to kind of leave it on your notepad. And I'm going to use 3-in-1 by Beacon, nice strong glue, and carefully, trying not to let it ooze over onto my pretty notepad, I'm going to put some just a little bit of this, not quite all the way out to the edge on both of these little flaps. And you see that string in between? You got to get rid of that. Okay, and so carefully, I'm going to hold that down and I'm just going to stick it in place, centered right in the area where I want my little notepad. Give a little bit of pressure for a second, and then I want to slide this notepad out just to make sure it's not getting glue on it. So you're just making a little sleeve is all you're doing. So carefully slide out the notepad, and then I'm going to let that sit and dry for a bit. But you can see it's kind of raised up a little bit, made a little channel. So let that sit and dry, and I'll think about my little Velcro situation here. Alright, all I had to my disposal were these Scotch fasteners dots I got at Walmart. So I had to use 2 of them. I probably wouldn't have done it this way if I had planned this out a little bit better. I would have bought more of a heavy-duty piece that I could cut into a nice big square. But for now, instead of running to the store, I put 2 dots here and 2 on the inside. And that's my little closure. I got my little notepad in there. You can see that it's a little bit skinny, so the next time I make or buy another notepad, I'll just make sure it's doubly thick, but the same size. So that was kind of fun. A little project that evolved out of making little notebooks and doing a faux oilcloth technique. So these 3 were with the Heat and Bond clear vinyl, and then this one was from the Hobby Lobby faux leather. They all have that similar, this one's not quite as shiny, but the similar durability as far as being able to wipe it off, throw it in your purse, not worry about it getting too dirty. But all just a little bit different. So just a little fun project to share today. So remember, it's Eileen Hull's Notebook die, some Graphic 45 stuff, and your spare fabric scraps, and some papers, and a fun little afternoon project. So thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon. Bye.